Imagine a world of golden palaces, powerful rulers, and dangerous secrets, where every decision could mean life or death. More than 2,000 years ago, a young girl was born in Alexandria who would change history forever. Her name was Cleopatra, the last queen of ancient Egypt. Today on Silver Narratives, we're not just learning history, we're stepping back in time to a world of courage, ambition, love, and strategy. Join me as we follow Cleopatra's journey from a curious, clever girl to a legendary queen whose life was full of drama, daring, and unforgettable adventures. Along the way, you'll improve your English while experiencing one of the most exciting stories ever told. Ready to travel through time with me? Let's begin. Long ago, more than 2,000 years in the past, a story began that still fascinates the world today, the story of Cleopatra's 7 Philopator, the final queen of ancient Egypt. Welcome to Silver Narratives, where history comes alive in a way that helps you learn English while enjoying unforgettable tales. Today's journey is not simply about dates and events, it is a dramatic adventure filled with courage, intelligence, ambition, and emotion. Imagine stepping into a time machine and traveling back to a world of grand palaces, powerful rulers, and dangerous political games. Cleopatra's life feels less like a chapter in a textbook and more like a thrilling movie, one that continues to inspire curiosity across generations. So take a deep breath, relax, and let this remarkable story guide you through history while strengthening your English skills. Our story begins in 69 BCE in the magnificent city of Alexandria, a place famous for its culture, learning, and beauty. On that day, a baby girl was born who would one day change the course of history. She was named Cleopatra 7, and although no one could know it then, this child would grow into one of the most influential women the world has ever seen. Before she became a legendary queen, however, she was simply a young girl with bright eyes, a curious mind, and dreams far bigger than her years. Cleopatra belonged to the powerful Ptolemaic dynasty, a royal family that had ruled Egypt for centuries. Interestingly, this family was not originally Egyptian, they were Greek. Their story began after the death of Alexander the Great, when one of his trusted generals, Ptolemy Isoter, took control of Egypt and crowned himself king. Over time, the family blended Greek traditions with Egyptian culture, creating a unique royal heritage that Cleopatra proudly carried. Her father, Ptolemy XII Auletes, sat on the throne during her childhood. Her mother is believed by many historians to have been Cleopatra V Tryphena, though her identity remains something of a mystery. Cleopatra grew up surrounded by extraordinary luxury, sparkling halls, fine clothing, devoted servants, and teachers who provided the finest education available. Yet behind the palace walls, royal life was far from peaceful. The struggle for power was constant, and betrayal was never far away. In the royal court, even family members could become rivals, and sometimes those rivalries turned deadly. From an early age, Cleopatra realized that wearing a crown meant living with danger. Unlike many girls of her time, Cleopatra received a remarkable education. She believed deeply that knowledge created strength. While most women were denied formal learning, she studied with determination and passion. Languages fascinated her, and she mastered several, including Greek, Egyptian, Latin, and Hebrew. Some historians say she spoke at least 7 languages fluently, an extraordinary talent that allowed her to communicate directly with many different people without interpreters. This ability later helped her build alliances and gain respect as a leader. But Cleopatra's curiosity did not stop with languages. She explored science, mathematics, literature, and politics, always eager to understand how the world worked. She did not dream of being a silent queen who simply wore beautiful crowns and attended ceremonies. Instead, she wanted to become a thoughtful and capable ruler, someone remembered for wisdom as much as for power. Along with intelligence, Cleopatra possessed another quality that made her unforgettable: presence. She carried herself with confidence, and her voice was said to be so captivating that listeners found it hard to look away or forget her words. People were drawn not only to her appearance but to her personality, her energy, and the way she made others feel important. Still, her childhood was not untouched by hardship. Her father struggled as a ruler, and many Egyptians believed he was weak and careless with the kingdom's wealth. Political unrest sometimes forced the royal family to flee Egypt for their safety. These experiences taught Cleopatra an important lesson very early in life: leadership required resilience, courage, and the ability to face enemies without fear. Then, around the age of 14, Cleopatra experienced a moment that would shape her future forever. Her mother suddenly disappeared from historical records. Some believe she died naturally, while others suspect darker possibilities, perhaps even assassination. Whatever the truth, the loss reminded young Cleopatra that palace life could change in an instant and that survival often depended on strength and strategy. These early years quietly prepared Cleopatra for the challenges ahead. The little girl with big dreams was growing into a determined young woman, ready to step into a world where intelligence, bravery, and ambition would decide her fate, and eventually make her a legend remembered across the ages. As Cleopatra grew older, the future of Egypt slowly began to rest on her shoulders. Her father's health was failing, and everyone in the palace could sense that a great change was coming. Though she was still a teenager, Cleopatra understood that the throne might soon become the center of a fierce struggle. Unlike many young royals who waited for power to arrive, she prepared herself carefully, knowing that leadership required more than just a royal title. What truly set Cleopatra VII Philopator apart from other rulers was her sincere connection to ancient Egypt. Even though her family came from Greek roots, Cleopatra deeply respected Egyptian culture and traditions. She became the first ruler of the Ptolemaic dynasty to learn the Egyptian language, a powerful gesture that helped her connect directly with her people. Rather than appearing distant like many foreign-born rulers before her, she embraced the identity of Egypt itself. Cleopatra even presented herself as the living image of Isis, the beloved goddess associated with protection, motherhood, and magic. This was not merely symbolism, it was a strategic decision that strengthened her authority and inspired loyalty. By the time Cleopatra entered young adulthood, she was intellectually prepared to rule. Yet she clearly understood that wearing the crown would bring constant challenges. Enemies surrounded her, some beyond the palace walls and others within her own family. She realized that survival would demand courage, intelligence, and emotional strength. And so began the dramatic rise of a queen whose name would echo across history. Chapter 2: Cleopatra becomes queen. Cleopatra was never meant for an ordinary life. From the day she was born, destiny seemed to guide her toward the throne. Still, the journey to becoming queen was anything but simple. It was a road marked by political tension, secret plots, and dangerous betrayals. When Cleopatra was just 18 years old, her father, Ptolemy XII Auletes, passed away. In his final will, he declared that Cleopatra would rule Egypt, but not alone. She was ordered to share power with her younger brother, Ptolemy XIII Theos Philopator, who was only 10 years old. In that era, joint rule between siblings was common, even if one of them was still a child. Tradition expected cooperation, but reality often led to rivalry. Cleopatra quickly recognized the imbalance. She had spent years studying languages, history, diplomacy, and political strategy, while her brother lacked both experience and maturity. In her mind, Egypt needed a capable leader, not a symbolic one. Determined to protect her kingdom and guide it towards stability, she moved confidently to take real control of the government. At first, Cleopatra attempted to rule alongside her brother, hoping cooperation might preserve peace. However, trouble soon emerged from an unexpected direction: the royal advisors. These powerful figures distrusted the idea of a strong, educated woman holding authority. To them, a young boy was far easier to influence. Quietly and carefully, they began plotting to remove Cleopatra from power and place the kingdom fully in her brother's hands. Before long, the palace that had once been her home turned into a place of danger. Political tension escalated until Cleopatra was forced to flee for her life. Imagine the scene: the rightful queen crossing the harsh desert, surrounded by endless sand and burning heat, accompanied only by a handful of loyal supporters. She had lost the palace, the army, and the throne, but not her determination. Many rulers might have surrendered in such a moment, but Cleopatra was not one to accept defeat. Exile became her classroom for strategy. Instead of giving in to fear, she began forming a plan to reclaim what was hers. She understood one crucial truth: to defeat her enemies, she could not stand alone. She needed a powerful ally, and she needed one quickly. Fate soon opened an unexpected door. Around this time, the legendary Roman general Julius Caesar arrived in Egypt. Caesar was already one of the most influential men in the known world, respected for his military brilliance and political power. Where others saw uncertainty, Cleopatra saw opportunity. Yet meeting Caesar would not be easy. Her enemies controlled the palace, and simply walking through its gates could cost her life. Cleopatra realized she needed a plan bold enough to capture Caesar's attention instantly, something unforgettable. So she created one of the most daring entrances in history, a move that would soon transform her fate and change the future of Egypt forever. One quiet and unforgettable night, Cleopatra VII Philopator made a decision that would become one of the most famous moments in history. Knowing her life was still in danger and that she needed a powerful ally, she designed a plan that was as daring as it was brilliant. With the help of a loyal servant, Cleopatra had herself wrapped inside a large carpet, yes, an actual carpet, and arranged for it to be delivered as a gift to the private quarters of Julius Caesar. No one suspected that the bundle carried more than fabric; it carried the future Queen of Egypt. When the carpet was finally unrolled, Cleopatra emerged with confidence and grace. Imagine Caesar's astonishment as this young, intelligent woman suddenly appeared before him. Yet it was not only her dramatic entrance that captured his attention, it was her presence. Cleopatra spoke with remarkable clarity, sharing the story of her exile, her deep devotion to ancient Egypt, and her vision of becoming a strong and respected ruler. Caesar quickly realized that he was not simply meeting a royal seeking protection, he was encountering a strategist with ambition and courage. Impressed by her intelligence and determination, Caesar agreed to support her cause. Together, they carefully planned how to defeat her brother, Ptolemy XIII Theos Philopator, and the advisors who had forced her into exile. What followed was a fierce and decisive conflict. With the combined strength of Roman forces and Cleopatra's supporters, her enemies were ultimately overcome. After the struggle ended, Cleopatra was restored to the throne, stronger, wiser, and more determined than ever before. Yet reclaiming her crown was only the beginning. Cleopatra dreamed of more than survival. She wanted Egypt to shine again as a powerful and respected nation. Working closely with Caesar, she focused on rebuilding stability. She encouraged trade, introduced effective policies, and strengthened the bond between Egypt and Rome, understanding that strategic partnerships could secure her kingdom's future. Chapter 3: Cleopatra and Julius Caesar. Now firmly seated on the throne, Cleopatra's life should have grown calmer, but history rarely grants peace to those destined for greatness. Her relationship with Julius Caesar began as a political alliance, yet it soon developed into something far deeper, shaped by admiration, shared ambition, and the constant shadow of danger. After her victory, Cleopatra stood as the most influential figure in Egypt. Still, she looked beyond her borders. She wanted her kingdom to be recognized across the world, and she knew that Caesar's support could help turn that vision into reality. The two spent long periods together, learning from one another. Cleopatra respected Caesar's leadership, discipline, and military genius, while Caesar found himself drawn to her charisma, sharp intellect, and captivating personality. Despite the significant age difference, Caesar was about 52, while Cleopatra was only 21, their connection was undeniable. It was a partnership built on mutual respect as much as attraction. Cleopatra invited Caesar to remain in Egypt, and he accepted. Together, they explored the vibrant city of Alexandria, sailed along the timeless waters of the Nile River, and discussed their hopes for the future. During these moments, Cleopatra introduced Caesar to the richness of Egyptian culture, its knowledge, traditions, and immense resources. Caesar came to understand that Egypt was far more than a land of deserts and pyramids. It was a thriving, wealthy kingdom with extraordinary potential. Then, in 47 BCE, their partnership took a deeply personal turn. Cleopatra gave birth to a son named Ptolemy 15 Caesarion. Many people affectionately called the child Caesarion, meaning Little Caesar. His birth symbolized more than love, it represented a powerful link between Egypt and Rome, a union that could reshape the political landscape of the ancient world. For Cleopatra, motherhood added another layer to her identity. She was no longer only a queen fighting for power, she was also shaping a future for her child and her kingdom. And although she stood at the height of influence, new challenges were already forming beyond the horizon, challenges that would test her strength in ways she could not yet imagine. Cleopatra looked at her newborn son with hope and imagination. Cleopatra's 7 Philopater believed that Ptolemy 15 Caesarion could one day unite ancient Egypt and Roman Empire, forming a partnership strong enough to shape the future of the known world. To her, Caesarion was more than a child, he was a living symbol of unity, strength, and possibility. She dreamed that he would grow into a ruler capable of bridging cultures and leading a powerful empire. Yet moments of happiness are often fragile in the world of politics. Cleopatra's close relationship with Julius Caesar stirred deep suspicion in Rome. Many Romans were uncomfortable with the idea of their leader forming such a strong bond with a foreign queen. Rumors spread quickly. Some feared Cleopatra wanted influence over Rome itself, while others described her as a clever temptress using charm to gain power. Whether driven by jealousy, fear, or political rivalry, opposition to her presence grew louder. Eventually, Caesar decided to return to Rome, but he did something unexpected. Instead of leaving Cleopatra behind, he invited her to join him. True to her fearless nature, Cleopatra accepted without hesitation. She traveled to Rome with her young son and an impressive entourage. Imagine the spectacle: a royal procession filled with glittering gold, elegant chariots, rare animals, and attendants dressed in magnificent Egyptian style. Cleopatra understood the importance of image, and her arrival sent a clear message: Egypt was wealthy, sophisticated, and powerful. In Rome, she stayed in a luxurious villa provided by Caesar. There, she attended grand banquets, met influential leaders, and quietly observed the complex world of Roman politics. Her distinctive fashion and regal appearance even began influencing Roman trends. Still, admiration was far from universal. Many Roman women, in particular, viewed her with suspicion. Cleopatra was unlike anyone they had seen: self-assured, glamorous, and completely unafraid to stand apart. During this time, Cleopatra witnessed Caesar's extraordinary rise. When he declared himself dictator for life, granting himself unmatched authority, she believed their alliance had reached new strength. But power often invites resistance. Behind the scenes, several senators grew increasingly uneasy, convinced that Caesar's control threatened the future of Rome. Then, in 44 BCE, tragedy struck. Caesar was assassinated inside the Senate by a group of conspirators determined to end his rule. The shocking act echoed across the world. For Cleopatra, the loss was deeply personal. She had not only lost a political protector but also the father of her child. Suddenly, Rome became a dangerous place for her. Without Caesar's protection, she was vulnerable, and many already considered her a threat. Understanding the urgency of the situation, Cleopatra acted swiftly. Gathering her son, her loyal attendants, and her treasures, she departed Rome and returned to Egypt before her enemies could move against her. Back in her homeland, Cleopatra refused to let grief weaken her resolve. She mourned Caesar, but she did not allow sorrow to define her future. Instead, she ruled with renewed determination, strengthening the army, stabilizing the economy, and preparing Egypt for whatever challenges might come next. Above all, she focused on protecting Caesarion. She educated him in politics, strategy, and leadership, hoping he would one day fulfill the dream she had imagined for him. Still, Cleopatra understood a difficult truth: Egypt remained vulnerable. Rome was the dominant force of the era, and survival required powerful alliances. Ever the strategist, she began searching for new ways to secure her kingdom and safeguard her throne. This chapter of Cleopatra's life was shaped by love, devastating loss, and remarkable resilience. Few leaders endure such personal tragedy while continuing to guide a nation, but Cleopatra did exactly that. And just when it seemed her story could grow no more dramatic, fate prepared another turning point. Chapter 4: Cleopatra and Mark Antony. After Caesar's death, Cleopatra's journey entered yet another unforgettable phase, one that would introduce her to Mark Antony, a powerful Roman leader whose destiny would soon intertwine with hers. Their meeting would spark one of history's most legendary romances, a story filled with passion, ambition, political rivalry, and choices that would ultimately shape the future of empires. After the death of Julius Caesar, Rome plunged into chaos. Powerful men vied for control of the empire, each determined to secure his place at the top. Among them were Mark Antony, a fearless and charismatic soldier, Octavian, Caesar's ambitious heir, and Lepidus, a political ally. Together, they formed the second triumvirate to govern Rome, but their alliance was fragile, built more on necessity than trust. Mark Antony was renowned for his strength, courage, and charm. A skilled general and confident leader, he commanded respect wherever he went. Though he had heard tales of Cleopatra's 7 Philopator, the intelligent and captivating queen of Egypt, the two had never met. Antony's military campaigns required vast resources, and he knew that Egypt's wealth could be crucial. Cleopatra, meanwhile, wanted to safeguard her kingdom from Rome's growing influence. She understood that forming an alliance with Antony could secure Egypt's independence and prosperity. Antony sent a message inviting Cleopatra to Tarsus to discuss their alliance. Cleopatra, seizing the opportunity, planned a grand and unforgettable entrance. She did not arrive as a typical queen. She sailed into Tarsus on a golden ship adorned with silver oars and purple sails. Dressed as Aphrodite, she was surrounded by attendants dressed as gods and goddesses, while the air was perfumed with flowers and exotic scents. The spectacle left everyone in awe, especially Antony. He had never seen anyone with such beauty, intelligence, and confidence. Cleopatra spoke to him with charm and wit, captivating his attention completely. Their meeting sparked the beginning of a powerful and passionate alliance. Cleopatra invited Antony to visit her in Alexandria, where they shared lavish banquets, games, and celebrations. She introduced him to Egypt's rich culture, its grand architecture, and its ancient traditions. They laughed, exchanged stories, and dreamed together of a future empire. Their bond grew not only from mutual admiration but also from shared ambition. Antony needed Egypt's resources for his military campaigns, and Cleopatra needed Antony's power to protect her kingdom. Together, they became stronger, politically and personally. Over time, their love deepened, and Cleopatra and Antony had 3 children, a son named Alexander Helios, a daughter Cleopatra Selene II, and another son Ptolemy Philadelphus. Cleopatra believed that her children would one day rule a vast empire and continue her dream of uniting Egypt with Rome. However, not everyone welcomed their relationship. In Rome, many viewed Antony's alliance with Cleopatra as a dangerous threat. Octavian, in particular, feared Cleopatra's influence over Antony and spread rumors that she had enchanted him with her beauty. Antony's personal life also suffered tension. He was already married to Octavian's sister Octavia Minor, yet he chose to stay with Cleopatra. This rivalry between Antony and Octavian intensified, eventually escalating into open conflict. The tensions culminated in war. Octavian declared Antony and Cleopatra enemies of Rome and sent his legions to challenge them. Cleopatra and Antony, aware that everything they had fought for was at stake, their love, their power, and their children's future, prepared for battle, determined to defend their kingdom and their vision of a powerful empire. Chapter 5: The Fall of Cleopatra and Mark Antony. The final chapter of Cleopatra's 7 Philopator and Mark Antony was a story of courage, heartbreak, and the relentless pursuit of love and honor. Together, they had built an empire of power, passion, and dreams, but their enemies were relentless. Octavian, their greatest adversary, was determined to crush them, take Egypt, and eliminate any threat Antony posed to his control over Rome. His army was well trained, disciplined, and prepared for a decisive confrontation. Cleopatra and Antony, however, refused to surrender. They gathered their forces and prepared for a monumental naval battle, the Battle of Actium in 31 BCE, near the coast of Greece. Cleopatra brought her fleet of Egyptian ships, while Antony commanded his Roman forces. Confident in their skill, strategy, and unity, the couple believed they could secure victory and protect their kingdoms. When the battle began, the sea was a chaotic spectacle of ships, soldiers, and weapons clashing amid waves and gunfire. Cleopatra and Antony fought with bravery and determination, but Octavian's forces proved overwhelming. Amid the chaos, Cleopatra's ship suddenly turned and sailed away. Some historians believe she did so to save her fleet and ensure her own survival, but Antony misinterpreted the move as betrayal. Confused and heartbroken, Antony's forces began to falter. Octavian seized the advantage, defeating their fleet, and Antony was left in despair. Returning to Egypt, Antony sought Cleopatra, desperate for answers. Upon seeing him, Cleopatra reassured Antony that she had never betrayed him, her actions had been intended to save them both. Their love, though tested, remained unbroken. Yet reality was harsh. Octavian's army advanced relentlessly, and the defense of Alexandria became increasingly hopeless. They understood they could not win the war, but they vowed to remain together until the end. In a final act of valor, Antony fought bravely, but his army was ultimately defeated. Believing Cleopatra to be dead, Antony fell upon his sword, mortally wounded. As news reached him that Cleopatra still lived, his remaining strength was used to be carried to her hiding place. There, the two lovers shared their final moments together. Antony died in Cleopatra's arms, leaving her to face an uncertain fate alone. Cleopatra knew that capture by Octavian was imminent. She would not allow herself to be paraded through Rome as a prisoner, a symbol of defeat. A woman of pride and dignity, she decided to take control of her destiny. In her final moments, Cleopatra donned her royal robes and crown, embracing the power, grace, and authority that had defined her life. She faced the end on her own terms, ensuring that her legacy would remain one of courage, wisdom, and unyielding sovereignty, a queen remembered for all eternity. Surrounded by the treasures, symbols, and splendor of her reign, Cleopatra's 7 Philopator made her final, courageous choice. According to legend, she arranged for a poisonous snake, an asp, to be brought to her and allowed it to bite her, ending her life on her own terms. When Octavian arrived in Alexandria, he found Cleopatra lying peacefully in her royal chamber. He was struck not only by the sight of her death but by the unwavering courage she had shown to the very end. Cleopatra's passing marked the end of the ancient Egyptian kingdom. Octavian claimed control, and Egypt became part of the Roman Empire, but Cleopatra's story did not end with her death. Her life, her love with Mark Antony, and her unyielding determination became legendary. People admired her for her intelligence, bravery, and strength. She was not merely a queen, she was a symbol of resilience, wisdom, and the power of one individual to shape history. Cleopatra's story teaches a timeless lesson: even in the face of overwhelming challenges, it is possible to stand strong, fight for your beliefs, and shape your destiny. She never gave up on her dreams or her country. She proved that women could be brilliant rulers, fearless strategists, and courageous warriors. Though her life ended in tragedy, her legacy continues to inspire. Her life reminds us that in our darkest moments, courage and dignity can light the way forward. Cleopatra's story encourages us to dream big, to act boldly, and to face our challenges without fear. She showed the world that true power comes from strength, intelligence, and an unwavering belief in oneself. So, my friends, let Cleopatra's journey inspire you to be fearless, determined, and unforgettable. Her life was filled with love, hope, and greatness, and it remains one of the most extraordinary stories in history. No matter the obstacles you face, remember Cleopatra's example: you have the power to rise, to lead, and to make your mark on the world.